So people are up in arms about with Janet Jackson about what she said about Kamala Harris. I don't even know why they even asked her about Kamala. Um, but Janet said she heard that Kamala wasn't black, and she was told that her father's white. So it seems like Janet's not really paying attention to what's going on with politics and all that stuff. And there's a lot of people like that. It's not just her. There's a lot of people. If you start asking about what you think about Kamala and Trump, some people don't have an opinion. It's like somebody's gonna be president. I don't care. We just whatever. I'm gonna focus on my kid and work. I don't care. It's it's like that, right? But here's the thing. Kamala's dad is white and Indian. So Janet actually had that half right. He is white and Indian, and her mom is Indian. And we got to get we as black people got to say something. Listen, we can't claim everybody. We just can't claim folks. There's people who are black adjacent, and there's a lot of cool people who are black adjacent. Like I almost feel like Kamala should have said, "Listen, my mom is Indian. My dad is from Jamaica, but he's half white, half Indian. But the way that I look, people always assume that I'm black. But I did go to a HBCU, which was a wonderful experience, and I'm part of the AKAs, where there's where there's a lot of wonderful black women there. So technically, from a heritage standpoint, I'm really Indian if you look at my heritage, but I have affinity for black culture, and I am an AKA. That would have been fine. It's like the Obama thing. Like people forget, like Obama when he first came out, his dad was African, his mom was white. I think he had two grandparents that he had that was from Kansas or someplace like that, but he was raised in Hawaii. And I think her mom later got with an Indonesian guy. So it was like a whole multicultural pot with Barack Obama. And Kamala's the same way. It's the same multiculturalism for Kamala Harris, but people want to say, no, she's black. It's like, dude, it's not that simple. She's kind of like Sean Paul, the Jamaican artist. He's kind of like that too. He has a mom who's white and a dad who's Jamaican and Chinese, and there's Portuguese in his family. But here's the thing. I don't think the press got to stop asking entertainers their political views. If you're someone like Public Enemy or George Clooney, who's always been active in politics, that's totally different. Like on The View recently, they had Usher on there, and they asked him, was he going to support Kamala Harris? And he said, yeah. And then they try to have him talk about Trump, and he kind of danced around talking about Trump. He's like, basically, he just there to promote his concert tour. He's not there to talk politics, and I think it's rude for them for them to ask that question. Plus, I'm kind of glad Usher was on back then than now, because Usher just deleted all his tweets, and this whole Diddy thing is gonna take down a lot of people or expose a lot of people. So, good luck, Usher. I don't know what's gonna happen with Usher, but it might not be good. Whatever comes down the pike. But yeah, so it's like I'm old enough to remember when George Clooney, back in July, I remember when George Clooney wrote that letter about Joe Biden, and he said Joe Biden should step down. I remember a lot of these pro-Kamala people were the same people who was ripping George. And he said, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Who is he? And it's like George Clooney has been involved with politics for a long time, doing fundraisers and doing stuff in Darfur and all that stuff. And he's probably been very active with the Obama administration. So he's probably talked to Joe Biden quite a few times over the years. And he probably knows how Joe is in 2024 versus how he was in 2020. And George said it was hard for him to write that letter, but for the good of the country, he felt like Joe should step down. And people were mad at George. And guess what? Joe stepped down and Kamala got selected. And now everybody's like, oh my God, we love Kamala. They all forgot about Biden. So we don't need to claim Kamala Harris as being black. We don't have to do that. Just because, oh yeah. Someone said on another post that Kamala Harris is blacker than Janet Jackson. Yeah, we're not going to do that today. Just because Kamala is part of the AKAs and she says ski weed doesn't make you blacker than Janet Jackson. Shout out to the AKAs. But still, let's go down the timeline, shall we? Janet's full name is Janet Demita Jo Jackson. You can't get blacker than Demita Jo. She was born in Gary, Indiana, to Joe and Catherine Jackson. Joe was a crane operator for U.S. Steel. That's a black man right there. And it was 10 siblings in that family. Unfortunately, one that passed away, I believe. And he lived in a small house. So Janet grew up poor and black. They all become successful because of the brothers. They moved to California. Now, if you want to say that there's colorism in the Jackson family, absolutely. There's a ton of colorism in the Jackson family, except for Rebe. And if you look at Janet, there's colorism in relationships. Like James DeBarge was her first husband, he was mixed. Renee Elizondo was the second husband, he was Mexican. And then her last husband, I forgot his name. I couldn't pronounce his name. He's Middle Eastern. So yes, even with her relationships, her married relationships, there's colorism. But she dated Jermaine Dupri. I didn't see that coming. That's a brother. I think she might have dated Q-Tip. That's never been confirmed. And I do believe Bobby Brown when he said they dated. I do believe, because people seem to forget. People seem to think about Bobby Brown later. No, Bobby Brown in the late 80s, early 90s, Bobby Brown, that dude, he could pull a lot of chicks. So I actually believe that he actually messed around with Janet Jackson. Plus, the two most important men in her life outside of her brothers is James Harris III and Terry Lewis. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Two black men who helped craft 4 of her best albums, craft a ton of her hit singles. And they love her. She loves them. She inducted them to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Never ate bad blood with them two brothers. She's always hired black dancers, black female dancers, black male dancers, black folks behind the scenes. Hell, Paula Abdul was her first lead choreographer. She was Middle Eastern. Well, eventually, because Paula did the same thing. It's like, what are you? It's like, I'm everything. So no, we are not going to say that Kamala Harris is blacker than Janet Jackson. You got Janet Jackson's videos has always been culturally aware in some form. No, we ain't doing this. I'm sure she's donated a ton of money to different causes and organizations that just help black youth. No. We are not going to say Kamala Harris is blacker than Janet Jackson. Now, if you want to vote for Kamala Harris, that's fine. Like, I got no problem with that. Vote for who you want to vote for. And if she becomes president, I hope for the good of the country, I hope she's good. Because if she's successful, hopefully we're successful. That's how that should work. But this whole thing about saying, well, she's black and Janet's wrong, it's like, it almost feels like we got into this space that I've seen it. It's all this standing where it feels like if you can't say anything, you can't say anything wrong about anybody. You can't say anything bad about Beyonce. You can't say anything wrong before people jump all over you. And this got to stop. Contrary to belief, not everybody is in love with Kamala Harris. This is not 2008. That Obama train, when it first started, people weren't on that Obama train. But when that thing got going, everybody was on that Barack Obama train. Unless you were a Republican or you didn't like him. But mostly, Barack probably had like 90% of black folks. Only 10%. Only that 10% is either 5% didn't vote and 5% was probably Republican. He got most black folks. And they knew his whole story. Kamala Harris is not like that. She's not Barack. She's fine. But she's not that rock star. And contrary to belief, not everybody likes her. Like, some people still got to think about her before they go vote. Barack was almost like a done deal. She's not Barack. And it's okay if people have questions. It's fine. But if you support her, that's fine. Keep supporting her. Help. If you want to get her in the White House, work hard, vote for her, do all that stuff. But just because someone has a different opinion, or someone says, I don't think she's really black, I think she's actually more Middle Eastern, or she's more Indian, that's fine. If you ask Kamala Harris, let's be honest, can you cook like a mean set of greens, or can you cook like a really, really great Indian dish? She could probably cook a really great Indian dish. And that's great. We need more multicultural stuff in our lives. That's perfectly fine. She loves family. She really doesn't talk about her that much. She loves her family like Janet Jackson loves her family. But if you talk about who's blacker between the two, it's Janet Jackson. But it's cool if Kamala's black adjacent. That's totally fine. I just want her to be a great leader. I can care less what she is. I just need to know if she can be a great leader. And she has policies that can help people. That's all I care about. Indian, black or not.